and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here today to do the reading for the full moon in Aries, which has just taken place today on the 20th of October. It's known as the Hunter Moon, or as I prefer to call it, a Huntress Moon, because it is the moon and the feminine aspect that we're talking about, just as I like to call the female entity goddess. I believe that the word has kind of disappeared from our literature and from our history in many ways. It's kind of being wiped out, and I kind of think that it's important to bring that awareness back. So the Huntress Moon is what we have with this Aries moon, and it is a full blood moon as well, so it's going to be seen in the sky. If you can see it at all, you will probably see that it's got a kind of reddish tinge to it. It of course will depend on what the weather's like for you where you are as to whether or not you will be able to see it. So this is my intuitive interpretation of this astrology that is taking place today with this full moon, and I am calling it We Are the Light. Now originally I was going to call it Into the Light, but then I was told to change it to We Are the Light. And I hope that I can kind of explain that as I go through the reading as to why that that is what I have been told to call this. So a lot of it is to do with the light of the galactic center, because this is one of the big energies that is in play during this full moon, but I will talk more about that as I go through the reading itself. So as ever, the divine masculine sun energy opposes the divine feminine moon energy during the time of a full moon. And before I forget again, I will bring in the cards that best describe what's going on. So we have the full moon energy, and full moon energy is all about culmination. It's about coming to a point of release of the energy from the previous new moon energy, and about surrendering to the divine energy. So that's the first energy of the full moon itself, culmination. And then we have the actual Aries full moon, and because Aries is a fire sign and it's talking about a fiery climax is being approached, it is a very eruptive fiery energy ruled by Mars. So this full moon could have us being very very out there, very determined and strong in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And the cardinal moon is basically saying be bold and make the first move, because it is a cardinal sign, Aries. And of course we also have over in Libra, which is another cardinal sign, the Sun and Mars and Mercury. So that is also adding to that cardinal pushing something forward, initiating energy that we are in at this time. And there is a lot of cardinal energy because of the Libra planets as well. Pardon me, sorry about that. So the full moon is occurring on the 20th October 2021 in the first cardinal fire sign of the zodiac. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. For those of you who don't really know much about astrology, there is also a free natal link in the description box down below, so that you can go and put your own birth chart in and discover more for yourself. Aries is known as headstrong, determined, action-oriented, passionate and inspiring energy. It is taking place, this full moon, at 27 degrees 26 minutes, and it's taken place at 15:57 hours UK time, so it will be different in other parts of the world. Once again, it is affecting the sign after it, which is the earth sign of Taurus. So if you have any planets or points at the 22 to 29 degrees 59 minutes of the Ram of Aries itself, the full moon energy is going to be spilling over into the Taurus energy as well. So if you have anything at those first 2 degree points of Taurus, you are also going to experience the intensity and the passion and the drive of this full moon as well, which is kind of not really a very Taurian energy, because Taurus tends to like to be a little bit more laid back. So this is what known as out of sign conjunctions as well. So because the moon's energy is, or the full moon itself is happening in Aries, but it's moving over into the Taurus, so it's an energy that is out of the sign that the moon is actually in. So in the first 2 degrees of the bull, you will be feeling the full intensity of this blood red moon, as I just said. So also any of the other cardinal signs, especially Libra, because that's where the sun is opposing this full moon from as well. Again, into the following 2 degrees of Scorpio, because the sun also has the same orb of effect on the sign that it's in. So again, that's moving into the Scorpio energy. So anything at the early stages, as first 2 degrees of Scorpio, you will also experience the intensity of this, because the moon is opposing your energy. The same for Cancer into Leo, and Capricorn into Aquarius. So you may want to check out these degrees and where they are in relation to your own personal house placements. So wherever those 22 to the 2 degrees of the next sign fall is going to be the house that it takes place in. So again, if you don't know where those placements are likely to be, there is a link in the description box below for you to check that out. You just need your birth time, your birth date, and the place that you were actually born at. So that's where it will turn up on an individual level, but of course it's happening for us in the first house of Aries. That's the real kind of the collective energy for this astrology, is the first house. So interestingly, this is the first of 3 upcoming full moons, which are all taking place at the 27 degree point of their signs. This particular full moon is making some very interesting connections. I mean, the astrology in general at this time is what I would call quite insane. Not just intense, but really quite insane. And I do feel that as we're kind of getting to the end of 2021 and moving into 2022, it is kind of really speeding up, accelerating, but also it's kind of coming to that head point, that crescendo energy that has been building and building. So yeah, it's making some interesting connections, and some of them are obvious because some of them are planets that we know, but there are also some connections that are happening behind the scenes that are less known about and less understood. So the sun is still conjunct Mars at 23 degrees and 20 minutes, which he has been for the whole of October so far. They have been conjunct. And the full moon is also opposing the ruler of the sign she is in. So the moon in Aries is opposing Mars, the ruler of the sign that the moon is sitting in at this time. So therefore the Mars and Aries energy is going to be felt incredibly powerfully over this period of time. It really is kind of like intensifying that energy, because not only is Mars being kind of lit up and fired up by the sun as well, but Mars is in Libra, and Libra is all about kind of, when it comes to Mars, it's about diplomacy and kind of compromise and thinking about the other person, whereas the Aries energy is much more about the individual. So there is also a kind of a clash of energies there as well, as they oppose each other, thinking like Libra wants the best, it wants harmony, it wants the best for both parties that are involved, whereas Aries and the Mars energy really wants the best for the individual, the self. As I said earlier, Aries is very determined energy. It is incredibly powerful over this period of time. It is highly eruptive energy as well, as being headstrong and passionate and ruled by fire and Mars, the god of war. And interestingly, today I heard on the news that another volcano has just erupted in Japan this morning. So that is kind of quite eruptive Mars, Aries, full moon energy. Also, interestingly, Uranus and Saturn just started reconnecting. They have been apart for quite some time because Saturn was going retrograde, and so that connection broke. But so for the last, since the end of August, I think, so right through September up until now, we have been kind of free of that big energy of Uranus and Saturn squaring each other, but that just started again on the 19th as well. So that's interesting, because that is again disruptive energy. Uranus in Taurus especially, because Taurus represents the earth. So Mars, the god of war, is our inner masculine warrior energy. It drives us forward in life, and this full moon also happens to be conjunct Eris, the representation of our inner feminine warrioress. She is the feisty goddess of discord, disharmony and strife, and is the sister of Mars, who she is opposing, while he himself is in the sign of balance, harmony and peace. So again, more of that kind of conflicting energy going on here within ourselves. This full moon, however, and the energy of this full moon, I would just say, is going to last up until the new moon in Scorpio. So it doesn't just happen to be the one day for this to take place, but there's going to be a lot of spontaneity, spontaneous kind of wanting to do things quickly without thinking things through first. But there is going to be this need for diplomatic conversations at the same time. So there is this kind of conflicting energy again. But Eris in Aries is just kind of all go. It's just fire and kind of let's just get the job done, really, in many ways, Eris. And also because she's conjunct the emotional body of the Huntress moon at this time as well. The moon represents the people, our emotional body, our emotional energy. She is quite likely to leave that idea in the dust, the idea of diplomatic conversations. Slowing Eris in Aries down is not going to be an easy thing for Mars to actually do, so that she brings in that balance and that harmony. But that's really what we are needing to do is to kind of take some deep breaths, step back and think before we actually kind of fire off. And the reason for that is, like, tempers may easily fly, words and actions may happen that will not be easily mended, as we are in an energy that can be easily triggered. This is eruptive energy of the moon in the first house of the self, the ego, and that which we feel the need to protect, to go to war over even. And it's being fully spotlighted from the 7th house of the other. So those we have our strongest emotions for, our partner, lover, spouse, significant other. So we could end up having some kind of big, major, fiery, disruptive quarrels or angry words that may cut quite deeply as well. Aries can be quite cold and cutting, even though she is very fiery energy. So Aries on the opposite side of Libra is the very beginning. It is the I am, the spark of new life, the newborn baby in a new body that has needs to be met. Unfortunately, our needs are not always met, which can cause woundings and trauma, which may stay subconsciously buried under the surface of our emotions until somebody, knowingly or otherwise, connects us to those memories as we venture into the realm of intimate relationships, which is that dominating 7th house energy. That's where the 7th house comes in. And this has also traditionally been where we have expected those needs to be met by another. So this is kind of saying, like, you know, maybe we need to look at our own healing, because we have Chiron as well, interestingly, in Aries at 10 degrees or 9 degrees maybe now, but he is also opposing Mercury, who also has just stopped being retrograde in Libra at 10 degrees. And that energy is a healing energy. It's a healing the wounded healer, basically, the wounds within us. But it needs to be done with a soft approach. Mercury in Libra wants that soft approach. It wants gentleness, it wants harmony, it wants kindness. Whereas Aries and and the moon, again, are kind of bringing out that more fiery, more kind of like, as I was saying, let's just get it done kind of energy, without kind of really thinking things through and thinking about the other person. So also during this full moon, we have 7 energies, all making connections with Pluto, the planet of transformational and evolutionary growth, as well as final endings. These are the Sun, Mars, the Moon, Eris, Neptune, Haumea, and lastly an asteroid known as Pandora. This is a lot of cardinal energy, all focused on one planet. Also a cardinal sign as well. Pluto is in Capricorn, which is another cardinal sign. So the cardinal energy is really strong at this time. And this was kind of where I got taken on a little bit of a, well, actually not this bit, but yeah. So the Pandora thing that came in was interesting for me. And I got taken on a little bit of kind of a rabbit hole, shall we say, kind of a bit of a tangent. Wasn't expecting to go there at all when I started writing this out, and that often happens to me. Something else will come in and it's like I get guided into doing something else which doesn't seem like connected to anything that I'm doing at the time, until I kind of see where it's leading. So yeah, with all this cardinal energy focused on Pluto at the time, it's like we're being shown it is time to push forward with courage, determination, strength and passion to transform the crumbling old existence into the new and as yet not experienced. So Pluto sitting in Capricorn is that kind of stagnant, status quo, traditional way of doing, thinking, trying to keep things the way that they are energy. But Pluto is kind of totally like destroying all of that very slowly but very methodically. And all the craziness that we are seeing happening in the world outside at this time has got a lot to do with this Pluto in Capricorn energy. So Hermia, who is at 28 degrees 23 of Libra and has been at that point for quite some time now. I have spoken about Hermia in quite a few of my other astrological videos. And this is where Pandora also comes in. She's at 27 degrees 57 or 28 degrees. So she and Hermia are literally together, conjunct each other. And they are also conjunct the Sun and Mars as well, while they also oppose the Moon and Aries. So we've got 4 planets in, or 4 energies, should I say, in Libra, who are all opposing the 2 energies of the Moon and Aries in Aries. And this is actually giving us 8 T-squares. If you think about each of those planets connecting to each of the other, or each of those energies, should I say, because Pandora is an asteroid rather than a planet, so she's further out. But she also is connecting, as I was saying, she is connecting, she's part of this whole astrological mix at this time. So all of these planets are opposing each other. Those 4 in Libra are opposing the 2 planets in Aries, and all of that energy is focused at Pluto, who is midway between all of this. So this is why we've got all this T-square energy. So on the surface it looks as though we've just kind of got the Moon and maybe Aries, because people are becoming a little bit more aware of the Aries energy, and the Sun and Mars opposing Pluto. But Pluto has been in this ongoing T-square with Hermia and Aries for a long time now, and also Pandora has been there for a while. And that is also a lot of feminine energy as well, that has been kind of squaring up to this Pluto energy of like transformation. Again, that transformational energy, that changing energy. Something has to change, something has to become different. I've just noticed that oh wow, there's big pink clouds outside my window. I've just noticed that the lighting just changed there, so that was quite interesting. So okay, so all that is happening, but at the same time as all that is being kind of focused on Pluto, the full moon and Eris are also trine with the galactic center. Now the galactic center is a point on in our solar system at 27 degrees 8 minutes, and it's in Sagittarius. And what it is I have spoken about the galactic center as well, but how I see it is a bit like this umbilical cord that connects us to the rest of the universe. Like our little solar system is kind of a bubble within a kind of much bigger bubble, shall we say. So it's like it's connected, or it's a bit like being inside a bigger, like a womb in some ways, is also how I see it. It's kind of that umbilical cord that kind of connects with the solar system, and every time a planet goes through that point or across that galactic central point, it is connecting with the universal energy. So it is getting upgraded, it is being given information, and information comes in the form of light. That's how this information is brought in from the universe. The Egyptians were well aware of this. The Egyptians knew that light was information, and that the more light that there was on the planet, the more light there was in our bodies, our light bodies. They knew all about the light body as well. The more connected we were with the bigger universal energy. We have kind of become very disconnected from all that. It's like we're so focused on just our planet and the lives that we live in many ways, that we have kind of forgotten that there is a lot more out there, and that we are part of it, and it is part of us. It is all connected. There is no separation. And this is kind of what I was meaning about we are the light. It's kind of bringing in that kind of remembrance in a way, kind of activating parts of ourselves that haven't been activated for a long time. And this is what this Aries full moon is kind of awakening within us as well. So so this galactic center energy is not only trining the moon and Aries, it is also sextile with the Sun, Mars, Haumea and Pandora. So all of this energy that is being experienced at this time is all connected in some way to this galactic center light that is bringing in this new information, this new idea of the universal source energy. It is everything. It is what has always been there. It's what we are made of. It is the very source of life, to put it in easy terms, I suppose. It is the very source of life. So it is also, interestingly, at the same time, also interesting at the same time, the Sun and Mars are still trine to Jupiter as well, which has been going on for the last week or so, I believe. And Jupiter is at 22 degrees and 20 minutes, having just started to move forward again. The same day, Jupiter is still really slow. So Jupiter started moving forward on the 18th. So he's still kind of really slow. He's literally like, so from the 18th when he stood station direct, which basically means to us it looks like the planet has stopped and is still in the sky. It takes a planet like about 48 hours to actually start that movement up again, for it to actually move back into forward motion. So so it is literally just starting that today, just before the full moon happens. So Jupiter is still really slowly moving at this time, which means that his energy, which is always expansive and it's always about magnifying whatever it is that he touches or connects with, is even more magnified because of the fact that he's moving so slowly. That energy is still kind of picking up. So he has got the Sun and Mars on one side of him, and he's got the Moon and Aries sextile on the other side of him. Of course, he's also got Sun, Mars, Haumea and Pandora on that side of him as well. So he's also kind of a focus of a lot of attention as well. So everything is kind of magnified at this time. So whatever we're kind of feeling it even more intensely than normal, which the collective is kind of expressing as well. So a T-square is similar to an opposition, where the energy moves backwards and forwards between those two energies that are involved. A T-square, however, involves a third energy, which is midway between the two. So this is like a tipping point that creates a seesaw effect. So the energy goes between the two opposing planets, but then in a T-square it will release through whichever energy is that third energy. So so you can see it as a T-square. You can also see it as a triangle as well, because it's like that focus point comes to a head at that point. So all that energy is focused and released through that tipping point, and at this time that tipping point continues to be Pluto. So like I was saying, because of the ongoing T-square with Haumea and Aries behind the scenes, which are the more hidden energies, but it is also now happening with 3 of our inner personal planets as well, which is what's making it even more insane, intense and crazy kind of feeling for us, because it's now including the Sun, the Moon and Mars. So we will feel this full moon with some hardcore energy. Something very powerful is taking place here, both on an individual level as well as a collective one. Pluto is the planet of power, and this full moon in Aries is asking us to take a look at how we wield that power, whether it is power over ourselves or power over others. We are also being given the chance to question whether or not someone else has the right to enforce their power, their will on us, thereby taking away our own personal empowerment. Pluto in the sign of Capricorn continues to destroy the past traditions of established life as we know it. By doing so, he is helping to bring in the next evolutionary level of our new beginning. So the energy of the Hawaiian goddess Haumea is that which represents giving birth to the new world that is coming into existence from a place of harmony, balance and equality, even if we are not able to see it at this present time. This volcanic goddess, and I find it quite interesting, and I've said this before, I find it quite interesting there are so many volcanoes going off around the world at this time, and Haumea is the Hawaiian volcanic goddess, and she had the ability to renew herself, which is a bit like a volcano if you think about it. It kind of lies dormant for quite some time and then it kind of just explodes back into life. So it kind of appears to be new and fresh energy again. So Haumea was said to be able to also renew herself, a bit like the phoenix from the ashes, which she was said to achieve through the use of her magic stick, which was called the Makalai. Haumea is the creation goddess. Symbolically here she's giving birth to a new world view and vision. But for this to occur, Pluto has needed to collapse the old world while removing the tight grip of the established order. This is where we find ourselves at this time, with the extreme life force of our Sun, our Moon and Mars directly aimed in his direction. Pluto is literally forcing us to transform our lives. It is, to be blunt, a time to transform or leave the earthly realm. Death, when it comes to the human race, is a place of mystery, of fear. It is the unknown, the impermanent, the letting go of the physical domain that we have become rooted in the solid form that has an identity, which again is that Aries energy. That from our first breath we are in a fight for survival to keep alive. The frailty of death is all around us, and we can find us at any time within our own bodies. We are always vulnerable. This is an energy we are all very heavily in the midst of experiencing, as we are also seeing the highlighted reality of the Plutonian death cult and the obsession with the need to depopulate being used in terms of keeping us safe. So this is very Pluto energy. It is obsessive once it gets it's the negative side of Pluto. The more I suppose warlike in a way, the death side, it's the more lower vibrational Plutonian energy, whereas the higher vibrational is all about transformation. But even in death there is a transformation, because you leave the physical realm and you move into the more spiritual, for want of a better word, energetic is what I prefer to call it, an energetic realm where we literally become more energy beings without the limitations. But this is kind of where we are heading in many ways in this Aquarian age that is coming in. There is a lot at this time, and I've spoken about this as well, about this hive mind energy that wants everybody to conform. Also the idea of mixing metallic parts into the human flesh parts as well, to create this new human-like being, which I'm not going to use the words because again videos get flagged for saying certain things, and I know that this is a real biggie at the moment. There has just been a very big meeting in Spain all about this. All those in favour of this idea were there, so there is much that is going on that we are not really aware of, and the idea of kind of bringing in scanners for the human form to be kind of like data collected, etc., etc., is all kind of in the process at this time. That doesn't mean that that's actually going to happen. That again is that lower vibrational energy, which in fact Pluto is kind of destroying very, very slowly, because Pluto does everything very slowly. But out of the ashes of that, because Pluto is also transformation, birth, death, rebirth, renewal of life, there will come this new idea of how life should be, but it is going to come from the grassroots. It's going to come from the people, from the collective, rather from those above, because Pluto is destroying that top-down control system, shall we say. But at this time we are seeing very strongly this Plutonian obsessed plutonium death cult that is real, does exist, and is doing what it wants to do and forcing others. And this is where this Aries new moon comes in as well, because the Aries full moon comes in, because the Aries full moon is about us standing in our strength and our light and our empowered being. It's bringing that awareness back to the empowered being. So added to this energy at this full moon is that of the asteroid Pandora, and this is where I got taken on a little bit of a kind of like I say, rabbit hole kind of tangent, but important. So bear with me, because this is going back. So in Greek mythology, Pandora was a woman created as a punishment by Hephaestus, a master craftsman for the god Zeus, Jupiter. And Hephaestus was actually, he was a blacksmith. So he actually worked with fire as well, which is interesting because he also worked with like volcanoes, fire from volcanoes. So anyway, Zeus, of course, is also known as Jupiter. So he was angry at the human race because Prometheus, who felt sorry for us, for the terrible existence that we were living at that time, decided he was going to steal the fire from Zeus to help make life more bearable for us. So this act of kindness and compassion infuriated Zeus, as fire was what separated and elevated the gods and goddesses from the humans who lived on earth below Mount Olympus. Pandora was created, so Pandora was, when created, gifted with all these different talents and qualities like beauty and intelligence and sensitivity, and so each of the gods and goddess kind of gave her something. Which is kind of reminded me in a way of Sleeping Beauty as well, with the kind of little fairy godmothers in a way who did much the same thing. But anyway, so they did this to make her more desirable as a wife for Epimetheus, who was the brother of Prometheus. It was also said that it was Prometheus that created, we were Prometheus's creation. It was Prometheus that created the human race, which was why he felt sorry for us, because we had no fire to kind of keep us warm. And I have also spoken about this previously as well in another video I did, but if you think about it, fire kind of really changed the whole history, shall we say, of the human race. If once we learned how to use fire and how to, it's kind of accelerated. I think fire is a really important part of the story in our own story, of learning how to be able to melt metal in fire and therefore create weapons and jewelry and everything. The kind of fundamental basics of life, in many ways, staying warm in the winter, all that kind of thing, came from fire. So going back to the story, Prometheus also warned Epimetheus as well that the gods may well try to do something to trick him somehow. But that didn't stop him. Anyway, so Mercury, the messenger god, was charged with this special delivery, which included a jar. Zeus gave Pandora a jar, which is later to become a box in the story, in the myth. And silver-tongued Mercury whispered into Pandora's ear never to open it, which, of course, brought on this insatiable curiosity to find out what it was she was not allowed to know. So this was the plan of Zeus from the start, and there are kind of similarities with this story as well, and the Adam and Eve story in some ways as well. So the kind of traditional themes run through these myths and mythology, and allegories and symbology. So yeah, Zeus had decided that the punishment for the human race was to unleash misery on us, because we were the creation of Prometheus, and because we now had this new element that we could change our world with and elevate ourselves as well up to that same level. So once Epimetheus had accepted Pandora as his bride, Pandora's curiosity obviously got the better of her, and on opening this jar or the box, she released all the ills and suffering into the world, all the misery, all the upset, all the diseases. All of this was said to have come out from this jar or this box. But at the very bottom of this was the star known as hope. Now, hope is described as an optimistic state of mind or being, a belief in the betterment or improvement of the future that is yet to be, which is kind of where I feel we're reaching at this time as well. Anybody who follows my blog will know that I believe that this particular health issue that we are living through had a lot to do with the passing of Black Moon Lilith over Neptune at 17 degrees in Pisces, the 12th house of mystery, the unknown and the unseen, which is what both Neptune and Black Moon Lilith also portray in Pisces. And this was like a triple whammy. So Neptune, Black Moon Lilith in Pisces, that whole kind of unknown energy. It's the kind of energy of of like dark mystery in many ways for Black Moon Lilith, which is kind of how I see this health issue that we're living through. It's like this dark kind of energy that has taken over the planet in many ways. And all this happened back in September 2019 when Neptune and Black Moon Lilith became conjunct in Pisces. So this happened just as Mercury at 7 degrees was conjunct Sun and Mars, both at 9 degrees, and they were both conjunct to Venus at 14 degrees. And they were all in the 6th house of Virgo. And Virgo is all about medical health related world. So as well as precision, perfection, with a huge need for neatness and cleanliness as well, which a lot of this came out of the idea of having to kind of cover our faces and the fear of the illness that was going around and how it could be easily caught, etc., etc. So this stellium in Virgo had opposed them both in Pisces. So Virgo, Pisces, opposing energies, Sun and Mars, Venus and Mercury, all opposing Black Moon Lilith and Neptune. A real recipe for disaster. And what it did was basically like set it ablaze. It kind of really brought that whole thing to life. And it set the scene for what was to come. And the three of them, however, and when I say the three of them, I mean the three energies of Sun, Mars, and Neptune in particular, formed a T-square with Pandora, the pawn in the story, for the release of all human misery and suffering. Pandora was also at 17 degrees in the 3rd house of Gemini, ruler of our day-to-day life, our basic education, knowledge and understanding of how to function and take care of ourselves. It is the lower vibrational autopilot mind. So what I mean by that is it kind of like it's the mind that accepts how things are without going too deeply into anything. It's the kind of basic understanding of life as we are taught to understand it through education. It's the lower vibrational autopilot mind. So it's the mind that takes over when we get into a car to drive. It's kind of that mind. Once you've learnt it, it's there and it stays there. So it also is about Gemini gathering data and information, and it tries to separate fact from fiction, and for this reason it also governs our media, which of course Mercury was also very highly aspected here in the 7-degree point of Virgo as well, so squaring this energy, and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. That's the connection there. So then we had Jupiter enter this particular scenario at 15 degrees in his home sign, the 9th house of Sagittarius, which governs over higher learning, higher disciplines of education, going beyond where Gemini leaves off. So this is about teachers, colleges, university, philosophy, greater understanding, knowledge, seeking truth through wisdom of what has previously been discovered, and yet also pushing beyond those boundaries of what we still have to learn, all come under this domain. Sagittarius is the place of growth and expansion, and in his home sign Jupiter can be seen as being grandiose, larger than life, full of his own importance, and promising more than he's able to deliver, as well as being very dogmatic, closed-minded, stuck in a belief system and unwilling to budge from his own ingrained views, of which we are seeing quite a lot of that energy has taken place, particularly within the medical system. So this is the lower vibrational aspect of Jupiter, which with Jupiter opposing Pandora, square to all the above in Virgo, created another T-square of difficult and challenging situations to come. So basically we had two sets of T-squares going on here. Jupiter opposing Pandora was square to the energy in Virgo, but he was also opposing the he was also squaring the energy in Pisces. So therefore really kind of highlighting again, kind of magnifying, expanding, and kind of making things seem bigger than they probably actually were, or larger than life situations. And so basically what we had sorry, I'm just checking out whether I need to difficult and challenging situations which yet to come. And this was all compounded and magnified by the T-square from Jupiter to all the Virgo energy and to both Neptune and Black Moon Lilith, who is the dark and destructive side of creation. And in Pisces, this really highlighted that deceptive, illusory, confusing, misleading, imaginary, make-believe fantasy realm of the planet Neptune, also in its own home sign, which amongst the need to surrender, let go, self-sacrifice, trust the process, also has sickness and illness, as well as victimhood and the need for salvation, all under its domain. Its watery domain, I should say. So what this energy created was an almost perfect grand cross on which to hang ourselves, if that was what we were called to do. Almost like a sacrificial kind of energy, crucifixion, that kind of thing, the grand cross. And a grand cross is where there are two sets of opposing planets at 180 degrees, causing a perfect balance of a 90-degree angle between all of them. It wasn't quite a grand cross, but the symbolism of a grand cross is about crisis, which puts us under pressure to grow, giving us the willpower to succeed and push beyond the limitations of the restrictions. Squares are restrictive energy that are caging us in. So that's kind of where I feel that stemmed from. And this is a painful process, but there will be growth and renewal. And although these set of T-squares were never that equal, so they never actually reached that perfect 90-degree angle for that Grand Cross, but there was definitely squaring energy all the way around between Virgo to Gemini to Pisces to Jupiter. So there were squares happening all over, but they just were not perfect enough to be a Grand Cross, which is kind of a stamp as well. It's like stamping a impression onto something. I personally feel they definitely gave us that kind of major crisis. And something else to point out here as well is that Saturn and the South Node were also conjunct in the 10th house of Capricorn, which is establishment, governance, the law, courts. And Saturn in his home sign was extra demanding of us to step up, take responsibility for our actions and non-actions, either way holding us accountable. With the South Node of karmic releasing and the Lord of karmic actions coming together while they were both trine to the Sun, Mars and Venus in Virgo, while also squaring the Moon in Libra at 14 degrees. So there was a lot more going on there as well, which had, incidentally, the Moon had just been a new moon in Virgo as well. So that Virgo energy of kind of everything medical or health related issues was again really kind of highlighted at that time. That kind of, yeah, new, this is what we have to deal with kind of energy. So yeah, basically meaning that, you know, the collective and our health had a massive part to play in all of this. But if we fast forward to 2021 now, today, Pandora is once more playing out her role. If we look around, we've got misery and suffering everywhere, with promises of more to come from the establishment and their cohorts, the media. This time though, the astrology is very different. The full moon is bringing in a new hope. The star at the bottom of the jar box is being set free. The established media is losing its control as citizen journalism has grown enormously in the last 2 years. Pandora has helped to expose where the misery, suffering, corruption, lies and deception is coming from through those who refused to be victims and instead looked towards finding the truth. We now have just 2 of our major planets still left in retrograde, Uranus and Neptune. Jupiter and Mercury, being the last to station direct on the 18th, are both now in direct motion. The energy is shifting. We are no longer looking back at where we have already been after reflecting on what has led us to where we are now from this past year's actions. We are coming into a sense of what it is that needs to be transformed on a deep fundamental level. And the galactic centre is a major part of this transformational evolutionary leap that we are experiencing at the time of this full moon in Aries. As it is connecting us to new cosmic energy coming through via the moon, Aries, the sun, Mars, Haumea, Pandora, and Jupiter. The fact that all these connections with the galactic centre are supportive and easily flowing energy means we are moving into an easier energetic level of literally being connected with the universal, higher vibrational source of all creation, which is coming through strongly at a critical ending and turning point of our journey. As I mentioned earlier, we have another 2 full moons at this 27 degree point in November and December, all due to the extra full moon we had in Aquarius. Nothing ever happens by accident in the heavens. It is all laid out as precise as clockwork. It is the oldest clock in time and space. These full moons all cover the anaretic critical karmic 29-degree point of the sign they are in. Same as this full moon that we are having now, that also has covered this 29 anaretic point. So this degree represents the end of a cycle, the closing out of a final experience. The full moon energy itself is about a culmination, something coming to a releasing point, emptying out. So at the time of a new moon, something new can enter. This trend with the moon will continue into 2022, gradually changing as the new moon degree slowly works its way backward and the full moon inches slowly forward. What is really exciting though is the last full moon of the 2021 year in Gemini finds our moon at the 27-degree 28 point, meaning our sun, who's going to be opposing this full moon, is right over the galactic center. So our sun at the very end of this year is going to be bang on top of the galactic center. And this is a major kind of, it feels like a major ending, shall we say, for the energy that we've had to go through. It's like something is going to kind of burn through here. It's like something is really going to bring in this galactic center energy, this new energy of a new beginning, a new world, a new experience for us. Because the sun is going to be receiving his full upgrade and his downloads from the source of all for the coming year at the same time. So the sun is going to be given all this new information from the universe as to what it is that we are needing to experience through 19, here I go again, through 2022. I actually had a really interesting revelation about this 1922 that I keep talking about, because 1922 is actually around the time when all this kind of medical tyranny first began, when the kind of pharmaceutical companies grew out of the oil industry, and that is where they are based. All of our modern medicine is based from these oil industries and the tycoons that have kind of taken over. So that was interesting for me, because in the last video I did, I mentioned 1922 a couple of times, and then when I saw it I was like, oh, why am I saying 1922? And then I listened to something else, I can't remember what it was, but it said at the time that, oh no, I do remember what it was. It was a guy called Cliff High, who was going through a kind of timeline thing. And if you haven't checked out Cliff High, I recommend checking him out. He is back on YouTube. There is a channel. They did take him down, but he is back. But the best way to find him would be on BitChute, where he puts a lot of his stuff up on BitChute. So go and look at his videos, because they are really fascinating. He's a very, very interesting man, and if you really want to have some kind of bigger idea, he really is very clued in to what is happening, due to the fact that he is a data analysis. So he basically has been gathering data. He's got a very interesting background, and he looks into the data information and how it gives him insights, shall we say, as to what's happening in the collective. Anyway, go and check him out. His name is Cliff High, literally CLIFHIGH. So that was where it came in for me. So back to now, this kind of 2022. So So yeah, this moon trend, the trend with this moon is going to continue into 2022, as I was saying, kind of gradually working its way away from that anoretic point. But it is interesting that as, again, we kind of reach the end of this cycle, we are, with all these full moons, experiencing this critical point is being covered by the full moon energy. And the sun is going to have that same experience at the end of the year, so moving into 2022. So this full moon in Aries is moving us into supercharge mode, and I'm being told that it's also about a mind state and kind of like an armor, like from within. So wearing that light, finding that light within and wearing it like an armor of invincibility, which is coming from within. So it's like recognizing or reconnecting us with our inner light, so that that inner light can then be seen outwardly by us doing what we know we are supposed to do, what is the right thing for us at this time as we move forward individually, which will again individually works into the collective. So this 27 degrees of Aries with the Sabian symbol is known through imagination. A lost opportunity is regained. And the keynote for this is revision of attitude and inner re-evaluation or revaluation. And there's been a lot of kind of re-valuing, reassessing, re-emerging is kind of what's coming through as well here. So the second stage of a five-fold sequence of phases always reveals a contrast to the first, but not necessarily an opposition. This symbol makes it clear that the mind has become overstimulated and obsessed by all it appears to be able to accomplish in some new realm of experience may easily fail. The disciple fails in his test, or at least it seems to him that he has failed, or her. Actually, the failure may have been meant by their guru to be a challenge to the emergence of a new capacity. And when I use the word guru, I'm thinking of a kind of bigger, higher energy that is not necessarily of this physical plane, or I would also see it as the actual astrology itself as well, kind of teaching us. So generally speaking, this capacity is what one calls creative imagination. So the mind must first imagine that which he will then be able sooner or later to actually experience. And again, this is where we are at. It's like bringing in that new vision, because we're going to realize as we go further into the Aquarian age that that is what has always been the case, but we have been limited from being able to do that because of our educational system, because we've been restrained and restricted and kind of boxed in and kept in a certain way of thinking and believing. Again, kind of disconnection. So at this stage, it may be difficult to distinguish success from failure, it says, which I think is very, very true at this time. If you look around, it looks like everything is just falling apart and that the human race has kind of had its day. But it says nothing may fail like success. People say, what counts is the development of undaunted faith in the pursuit of one's ideals. So the 27 degree of Libra is an airplane, sails high in the clear sky. which is very controversial at this time, I must say. So the keynote here is a consciousness able to transcend the conflicts and pressures of the personal life. And I will just add as well that this whole kind of airplane thing that is going down at this time, the flights and the pilots and all of that, has a lot to do with the fact that Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius as well. Aquarius being the kind of higher mind, the air, the third air sign, long distance journeys, that kind of thing. So going above and beyond. And if you think of an aeroplane, it kind of holds a lot of people in it, like a collective journey. So that has got a lot to do with what is happening at this time, Saturn in Aquarius. And it's probably not going to change anytime soon, because Saturn is going to stay in Aquarius right the way through 2022 as well. Jupiter will go back into Pisces. He's already at 22 degrees of Aquarius, so it won't take him that much longer before he gets back into Pisces. So that Jupiter energy will kind of no longer be there as a encouragement, shall we say, for people to want to do that, to take long journeys and faraway holidays and all that kind of thing. It's like so much is going to change. And again, that's also due to the Saturn-Uranus square that is coming back as these two connect again, which is just starting, and they will stay connected and become square exact on Christmas Eve, which is a very interesting time symbolically for that to take place as well. So going back to the 27 degrees of Libra, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with this at the moment. Yeah, a consciousness able to transcend the conflicts and pressures of the personal life. So for me, that's kind of saying it's about rising above what is happening on a more mundane level. So this picture symbolises the capacity latent in every individual to contemplate the stress of existence in our world of duality from a higher level. Through the use of his mind, backed by the efforts and struggles of past generations and the cooperation of other men, the individual can gain a new perspective on human problems and reach freedom. And I will just say men, women, really is not just about the gender here. I'm just reading what it says. The individual can gain a new perspective on human problems and reach freedom and peace in a supernal realm of being. So it's about going beyond the stresses and the strifes and the worries and the life that we have lived up to date, really. It's about kind of stepping into our awareness that we are more than just a human body. And that really for me is what this new age in Aquarius is about. It's not about kind of adding more bits to us to make us more. It's about realizing that those bits are already there and we need to reactivate them and bring them out. We need to connect back with those, with that higher energy, in order to create a new form of ourselves, the next level of the human race. So this second stage symbolises contrasts with the first, for while the first dealt with the cooperation between polarised energies, this one introduces us to the realm of unity beyond polarity. It is a stage of transcendent realisation. So that is very interesting. Transcendent realisation. That's kind of what I was talking about in many ways, that realisation that we are more than just the physical form that we inhabit, and there is so much more to us, and always has been, but it has been kept or denied to us, really, through establishment, through the idea of established ideas in general. I think religion plays a large part in that as well, established religion. And conforming to something which isn't necessarily who we are or what we're about. Again, it's going beyond the hive mind. So I'm going to pull a card from the angel script here and see what the angels would like to say. I did douse these cards, and these were the ones that came out, so hopefully we'll get something. Not sure which way I should be shuffling these, actually. I need to do it that way. Okay. So a card for the collective, please, for this full moon in Aries energy. There we go. Excuse me, I will be back. What we have here is just take a quick look at this card. Oh, interesting. We have Tao, which is community. Which is really quite interesting because it is all about the collective. It is all about grassroots energy, Aquarius energy that we're moving forward into. And it says, community is the coming together of souls who seek harmony with the divine. We gather together to strengthen our purpose and empower our vision. Sorry about that lighting, it's going a bit weird. Then we can move forward in the knowledge that the divine grace is working through us perfectly, which is kind of what I've been saying about this energy that is coming in. So when we bring ourselves into community, we bring ourselves to perfection. Our individual tasks are continually supported by the community, and the community is empowered by our individual labours. There are no gaps and falters in the community, since the efforts of each one creates the totality of the building. In the creation of an architectural structure, we require bricks and mortar. In community, some are the bricks and some are the mortar. Both are essential. Sometimes our roles, where are we? Sometimes our roles, lost that completely. So there we are. Sometimes our roles change. Those who were bricks become mortar and vice versa. There are no lesser tasks to community. Each task is essential for the building of the whole. What is needed is that all members support and reassure each other, knowing that the task is itself a perfection. Belonging to a community does not require a loss of self. The small self makes way for the greater self, which knows that to serve with heart is to rule. The great ruler is a servant of the people. In this way, each member of the community is enhanced and not diminished by its membership. A great ship cannot be navigated or manoeuvred by the captain alone. The community labours to bring the ship to readiness. The captain calls on the navigator to describe the time and the tides, and then awaits the wind of the divine to empower the ship to move onward. So basically, I feel what that's saying is that nobody is any more important than anybody else, and that is something that we need to kind of get back to, that idea that everybody is valuable in everything that we do, regardless of how low that may seem to be to others. But this is about grassroots community. It is about returning to that grassroots, bringing things back to the foundation of where it all begins, where it all starts. And there is going to be a lot more communities that are going to grow over these coming years. So I'm using the Divine Feminine cards here, and we have Saraswati, the goddess of self-knowledge. The essence of who I am flows effortlessly into everything I create. Which is kind of fitting. Again, it kind of goes along with the idea of the individual and the community. Let's see where we are. Saraswati. Page 80. Here we go. Who she is. I'm just going to put my glasses up because it's so much easier. So Saraswati represents the self-knowledge of who we are, so that nothing impedes the flow of creativity from the soul. Her name is a function of the Sanskrit words for essence and one self. Saraswati name translates then as the one who leads to the essence of self-knowledge. She is a part of the Hindu goddess Trinity, the Tridevi, together with Parvati and Lakshmi. All three goddesses help the trinity of Hindu gods Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva to create, maintain and regenerate the universe. The earliest mention of Saraswati is in the Rig Veda, a collection of ancient sacred texts that date back to 1500 BCE. She is sometimes referred to as the mother of the Vedas and is understood to be the personification. I'll just show you the picture of her here. The personification of knowledge. Students appeal to her for assistance on exams, and writers and artists pray to her to remove all the obstacles that keep them from being a clear conduit for the creativity that wants to come through them. So this is talking to me about the creative energy that is coming through directly through this kind of galactic center at this time as well. She is considered to be a river goddess or a feminine deity with healing flowing waters. She is venerated as the goddess of music, the arts and learning because of this association with waters that heal and purify. Her iconography often associates her with a white lotus, symbolizing the purity of wisdom her energy brings. So Saraswati helping at this time of this full moon in Aries to bring that creative vision in. So that's where I'm going to finish my reading today and say that I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that you've got something from it. If you have, please could you thumbs it up for me? It really does make a huge difference to me. I know I haven't been around much or done much. I have been focusing on this astrology quite intensely and quite deeply. My energy has been kind of up and down all over the place. I'm kind of, maybe like most of you out there, kind of waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep, and the intensity is full on. So so yeah, it's kind of like, it's just a case of keep going, keep plodding on, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But I'm really focusing, it seems to be more at this time on the astrology than I am on the actual tarot, although I am going to try and get that tarot reading out today as well for the collective. But again, yes, thank you very much for those of you who have watched or shared or thumbs up my videos or subscribed to my channel. If you haven't done so already, please could you do that, because again, it will help to grow my channel, get my message out there, or the messages that I'm being kind of given for the collective at this time, to kind of try and hope to make some difference out there. So if you know anybody who you think may benefit from some knowledge and kind of bigger picture of what's going on in their lives, then please feel free to share that with them at this time. I have a playlist which you can go and check out as well, all the tarot readings that I've done previously for all the sun signs. There is no times or dates on those readings because crap happens all the time. So if it resonates with you, if the title jumps out at you, if you think, yes, that sounds like my story, then take it as your story, because as I said, it can happen at any time to any of us. So with all that being said, I'm going to wish you all the best for this full moon in Aries. Please take really good care of yourselves, and hopefully I will see you all again soon.